Hey guys, welcome back to Ranger Survival and Fieldcraft. I'm Andrew, and what I have for you today is the Green Machine, my favorite survival and fieldcraft kit loadout. Stand by. I always get tasked to be the far side swimmer. Hey, who's got two thumbs and wants you to like and subscribe? Alright guys, welcome back. We're going to get the day started off right, doing a training exercise to cross this obstacle behind me, this body of water, with all of our gear and our equipment safely to the other side, using our gear to actually act as a flotation device. Alright guys, so what we're going to need is one of our drum liners that we bring with us as part of our kit. Our large tarp, we're going to use the tarp today instead of our poncho. And then, lastly, just a military wet weather bag. Alright, so I got my salt bag. It is 25 pounds of gear when I weighed it before I stepped out the door this morning. So we're going to take this 25-pound assault bag with all our gear, the Green Machine, and turn it into a flotation device to safely reach the other shore across this body of water. Now, first thing we're going to do is grab our drum liner from our kit. I always have a few drum liners or trash bags in the kit, and we can use this as a protective layer for our salt bag with our wet weather bag. And what we want to do is squeeze all the air out of this bag as possible to create what's called neutral buoyancy. And what that means is that there's enough air in here already. We squeeze out the excess. That way, if we lay on top of this bag as we cross the water and use it as a flotation device, it will be strong enough or buoyant enough to hold our weight, but not so strong that it's actually coming up out of the water and all we're doing is just hanging onto it with our arms, okay? To give us just a simple overhand knot that we can get done easily without tearing the bag open once we get to the other side. There is a tear in my drum liner bag right here, and that's why we use multiple layers of wet weather items to use for a flotation device like this, is because if one layer has a puncture on it, we've got other layers that can reinforce and stop this bag from collecting water. Now with our wet weather bag, we just pack up our rucksack just the same. On the wet weather bag, we have two pieces of string, and this is how we're going to tie the bag off. There are a couple different ways to tie this off. The way I prefer is by doing just what you do with a sea lion bag or a waterproof bag, is grabbing the top. I'm going to leave the string out to the side here, and then we fold this over, compress it, and holding it up again, fold again, press, and then continue to fold all the way down. You'll notice that the strings are on the exterior of the bag as we folded it down. Once we have it down tight enough, we take our bag and the top and loop it over, crossing the strings, and they follow our fold up and around as best as possible until they meet on the opposite side. And then we just do a simple overhand knot. Tighten it down best as possible underneath that fold, And all we're doing now is just simple bootlace knot. That way we can get it undone on the far side. But now we have our wet weather bag and all our gear inside, ready to go. Our last step is using our tarp. Open it up and grab our rucksack or our salt bag, throw it right in the center. We're going to pull up all 4 points. Then once we have all sides collected and the tarp is over our wet weather bag with our drum liner and our equipment inside, we just pull this up. Again, squeeze all the air out. And then we continue, similar to the drum liner, of goosenecking our tarp. And then we're going to grab the cordage or hank of cordage we should have in our pocket, the last thing remaining in our pocket. We're going to use this to tie this gooseneck and waterproof it and do the final seal of our flotation device before we test it and enter the water. And what I have is just a hank of paracord about 6 feet long. We've got end of line bowline on one end with a safety half hitch, and then we just take our running end, put it through that bowline to act as a cinch. We cinch it down as tight as it'll go, and we wrap around our gooseneck. And then I like to go down around the actual bottom of the gooseneck to make sure we have a tight seal and not going to let any water in while we're doing this. And we want to use all our cordage so that way we don't have any tags sticking out. And then for our purposes, I'm just going to put a double overhand knot on that, and now our flotation device is ready to go and we can test it. Alright, so before getting in the water, we're going to test our flotation device. You see it floats. Good to go. Now, there is inherent risk in doing something like this, and I don't recommend people do this. I recommend you find a way around this body of water or this obstacle instead of going in the water. By going in the water, we lower our core body temperature, we compromise our clothing to stay warm. There are obstacles or subsurface obstacles in the water that we could get snagged up on. We take a chance of cramping, especially in cold water like this. And so this is a very risky thing to do, but it can be done and is taught as part of soldier survival skills, creating flotation devices and then using that device to get safely from one side of a body of water to the other side, and then continuing movement as part of survival or part of tactical training or patrol training. So we prep our clothing, undoing our cuffs, rolling down our sleeves, pulling our pant legs out of our boots if we have them bloused, and then rolling those pant legs a little bit. And then if there's anything in our pockets or any clothing we have on that could get snagged by an underwater or a subsurface obstacle, we want to remove that and have already placed it inside our bag. Okay. All right, so we're ready to go. Our flotation device is ready, clothing is ready. We have our far side rally point. We've got a near side right here, a Widowmaker that is bright white and dead that we're going to use as the near side rally point, and we're ready to cross. All we're going to do is hold on to that flotation device as best as possible, get in the water, and swim using the same kick we would use for a breaststroke. And we're just going to go nice and easy so we don't overexert ourselves and that we don't take a chance of cramping up inside the cold water. That was cold. All right, so down and back, nice and easy. Let's open this up. Moment of truth to see if everything stayed dry. And this is what we would be doing on the other side, getting all our gear out, repacking it, and then moving out to start a fire for a nice hot drink. Uh-oh. Got a little water on the wet weather bag. That's another reason why you have multiple layers. We've got that just basic shoelace knot. All we have to do is pull it, get it undone, open it up. Looks like it's dry on the inside of our bag. Just pull that out, throw our wet weather bag aside. Nice and dry. You see how red my hands are just from that cold water just being in there just a couple of minutes. There we go. All right. Got it done. Moment of truth. Our bag is completely dry. Good to go. Shove it in right on top. Now that we have all our gear, all we got to do is move into the wood line. We'll get a fire going with our fire kit and get a hot drink, hot coffee to warm us up after our nice cold swim. Alright, so getting a fire going while you're soaking wet and cold from that beautiful swim we had can probably be a very difficult thing to do if you don't have a robust fire kit. Now, fortunately, I always have a good fire kit, but we're not going to make it that easy today. We'll pull out our ferro rod. We will use the ferro rod, and this thing can get wet, so I'm going to put it in my pocket, save it for later. What we're going to use is our saw and then our kukri along with some fat wood to get our emergency fire going. And I'm going to show you a special technique to use with fat wood along with these other tools and then this log right here to get enough tinder off of this fat wood even though you're cold, wet, and running the risk of potentially injuring yourself with a tool out in the woods. So we're going to do this in a safe way to get as much tinder as possible so we can start our fire. All right, so what we want to do is find a log like this, and we're going to turn this into our anvil. We're going to take out our saw and just make 2 stop cuts, a few inches apart. They don't have to be very deep. Now in between these 2 stop cuts, we can just start making smaller stop cuts. Now we made a few stop cuts here in about maybe 8 or 9 inches in length. And this may seem like a little bit more work than it's worth, but that physical activity will help increase our body temperature. So now what we're going to do is take our kukri and we're just going to chop these sections off to create a nice flat surface that we can use to scrape our fat wood. Now we have a decently flat surface to work with. Now what we want to do is harvest a baton. Doesn't have to be anything special, just a good sized mallet or baton. Something like that ought to work. Is take our survival knife and we're going to baton it into the wood right before our flat surface where we created our bushcraft anvil. Now what this has done is stabilized our knife so it is not moving, only we are moving, and the blade is away from us, decreasing the likelihood that we're going to have an injury on that blade. And so we can still use gross motor skills to just scrape fat wood. And in no time we have a good pile of tinder that we can gather, collect up, and then use to start a fire. So let's talk fire really quick. Now, we've got our fat wood that's going to be our natural tinder, but typically we can have a fire kit with multiple ways of starting fire. I like to carry just a small plastic bag, quart-sized bag, with all the fire lighting implements inside, with a little bit of space left to put natural tinder or whatever we find, or we can put tinder man-made items inside this kit already. So you already know we have our little ferro rod for lighting fires. We have a Fresnel lens or Fresnel lens for using the sun's rays. Matches still a good way to start fire. Stormproof in a match-safe, waterproof container with a striker on top that we can use, and then we have that small ferro rod on the bottom for emergency fire lighting. Good old faithful magnesium bar. You'll notice that the ferro rod and the magnesium bar have yellow tape wrapped around it so we can see it if we drop it in the wilderness. We can use this to start a fire as well. As always, a lighter, instant flame, instant gratification for emergency fires with dry material. We can get a fire going very quickly, and the duct tape around the side acts as a flame extender. Man-made tinder, wet fire, lights in wet conditions. Cotton balls that we can use with our medical kit, and Vaseline to extend that flame. We can use this as tinder as well. And then even a little bit of steel wool we can use with the batteries from our headlamp, or we can just strike this with our ferro rod and ignite it in wet conditions to get a fire going. Always carry coffee as part of your survival kit. Ooh, that's hot. It's definitely a lot clearer than the green stuff we've got out there. Having a mechanical filter like this GeoPress is a good thing to have. You know, we can take the water straight out of here with our canteen cup and then boil it and make it safe to drink. It's not the green color or the slime that's in the pond that necessarily can hurt us. It's those microscopic things, viruses, bacteria, protozoa, pathogens, parasites, all those things that are inside the water that we can't see with our human eye. So having A filter like this makes getting water incredibly easy. Less than 15 seconds, we've got fresh water to drink. Now, as part of the green machine, you know we're going to have a lot of different signaling items. Now, just a couple of my favorites that I haven't included before are going to be things like just this simple Aviators Panel. This thing is just silk, fine material that can go right inside our pocket. We can put it away and then pull it out when we actually need to signal. We can unfold this thing. And so this panel, we can just fold up or roll up and then put it away very quickly after signaling a rescue, or if we're in a non-permissive environment and we just need to put it away very quickly. It collapses fast as opposed to a normal VS17 panel, which is big and bulky. We can just take this and shove it in our pocket and it's gone. And then obviously a fan of whistles. I have two different types here. One is the OD green whistle with the P, and the other one is just a Fox 40, and this is a P-less whistle. If we have a P inside our whistle, like this, everybody's had a gym teacher or a coach at one point in their lives who had one of the classic gym whistles with that P inside, and it creates a very distinct sound that everybody has heard. We've all heard that same sound at one point or another. So having a whistle with a P inside can clearly indicate that somebody is in help, because you're not going to find a gym whistle out here in the wilderness. Now briefly we'll go over our land navigation kit, just our military Lensatic compass. We can use a commercial compass as well. Today I'm just rolling with the Lensatic. We have our protractor, just this piece of plastic right here to measure and get proper distances and azimuths from our map. And then we have pencil and a notebook, and then we also include our watch as part of our land navigation kit. We can use this as an improvised compass, but then we need to keep track of time as we move through our land navigation area or through a certain area, just to give us an estimate on how far we've traveled, besides using our pace count. Now, as far as the green machine, we've got a great survival shelter setup. We've got our big tarp, which we used for our water crossing. We can use that as overhead cover, a sleeping pad, the bright green, to my right, your left, a hammock. We've got our ridgeline tent stakes, bungee cords that we're going to use for the guy lines for our tarp, and then our poncho liner as our blanket. All of this creates a great shelter, gets us up off the ground, and we can insulate that shelter from underneath with our sleeping pad, and then over top with our poncho liner. So now we have something to sleep in, something to sleep on, and then something to sleep under, meeting our survival requirements for shelter. spaghetti and beef sauce. À la viande de beef. And some raisins. Cooking sleeve. Got cocoa beverage-based powder. Gross. Got our heater. Peanut butter. Spoon. Grape jelly. It's probably the second best jelly to have. Got, chocolate chip toaster pastry. Let's see that beautiful toaster pastry there. Score. Got our little utility pouch or accessories pouch here. Drink mix, some gum, toilet paper, salt, and then a wet wipe. Got our wheat snack bread, or Italian snack bread in this case. And then our main dish, that's spaghetti. So we got spaghetti. Throw it in our heat bag. Add just a little bit. Not much. Fold this over, give it a good shake. Grab your cooking sleeve. And it goes right over top. And then you just need to find a rock or something. I'm just going to lean it up against my backpack here, or our salt bag. Now while we're waiting for our MRE to heat up, it's pretty hot already. Let's go over our tools as part of the Green Machine Survival Kit. We've got a large processing tool like this kukri that we can use to take down material very quickly and then shape material using gross motor skills. Plus, this is a defensive weapon as well. Companion HED, heavy duty right here, with green, that rubberized handle for good grip when we're lacking dexterity. And then we've made that into a mini survival kit by adding 550 cord, some tape, and then Ranger bands to the sheath. For a larger cutting item, just like our kukri, we've got a simple folding saw that we can use to process materials, harvest things from the landscape, and then create notches. Then I've said it before, and I'll say it again, multi-tool, multi-tool, multi-tool. Here we just have a Super Tool 300. We've got a regular blade, and then a file, along with can opener, bottle opener, and especially that awl or reamer that we can use to drill holes. We got another serrated blade, got that saw for fine notch carving, and then even that bottle opener or can opener on here. And then the pliers themselves that give us another handhold out here in the bush. We can use it for a variety of purposes, but this gives us a lot of different tools and a lot of different options, and just a simple lightweight tool we can carry. That sear sewing kit with a bunch of different items inside, thread, needle, safety pins. We've got wire, jute twine, a small piece of type 1 550 cord. We got line and hooks, as well as some snare wire, buttons, and rubber bands, things that we can use to repair clothing or repair our kit inside our sewing kit here. Very lightweight, easy to carry inside our gear. And these are all of our tools. And then don't worry, still carrying the hunter's kit. We've got our spear points, a frog gig, and then a point spear. And then our trapping, hunting, and fishing kit with everything in here, from line and hooks to snares, zip ties, more cordage, bank line, and then even some slingshot band and some ammo inside here, so we can hunt game in a variety of ways out here in the bush. On my assault bag, and I highly recommend you do the same thing, is that lead exterior pouch right here, the small one that's right in the back, highly visible, noticed, and we can get to it first, is where we put all of our medical aid items. Now that first thing is going to be just a cat tourniquet. We can improvise a tourniquet, but we should probably carry a man-made tourniquet that's been proven to use to stop bleeding and prevent the loss of life. Here we have combat gauze, and we place this inside the wound, directly on top of where the bleeding is occurring. We identify that point, apply the combat gauze to stop the bleeding at its source, and then in Israeli dressing to apply over that wound to help seal that wound and package it so we can transport ourselves out, or whoever's treating us, or if we're treating someone, we can pick them up and transport them to safety. Now, two other things I'd like to have in our kit is a casualty blanket. We can use this for our shelter behind me. We can use this grabber space blanket to wrap ourselves in to help prevent our body temperature from dropping. And we can also use this as a signal, but then to also have some sort of cravat, military cravat, or some sort of cloth like a shamag that we can use as an improvised tourniquet or an improvised dressing, pressure dressing, or a sling or a swath to help treat other injuries that may occur out in the wild. To use a tourniquet, say we have a catastrophic injury to the lower limb of our left leg. Grab our tourniquet high and tight up into the crotch. Above the injury as far as possible, we cinch this down and come around until it's locked. We grab our windlass or our tourniquet bar here and we twist until the bleeding stops. And continue twisting until the bleeding stops. Bleeding is stopped. We lock it in the locking bar and then secure it with the Velcro strap that is right here. Now I can feel the effect. I tighten this down fairly well. What is happening is that the tourniquet is compressing the tissue and muscle around the bone where the femoral artery is going up and down our leg, stopping the bleeding at the wound that is below the tourniquet. Remember that tourniquet, high and tight every time, high and tight every time. Twist until the bleeding stops and then secure it and note the time. Anytime you transport yourself or a casualty who has a tourniquet on, make sure you're checking the wound to ensure that that blood has not started again. Otherwise you have to tighten the tourniquet itself again or apply another tourniquet using improvised methods from our kit. And that's what Army spaghetti looks like. Grab our spoon. And then enjoy. Now I'm sure it's not lost on you why I call this the Green Machine. There seems to be a color pattern with this kit, but a lot of these items plug and play over the last few years, and I keep coming back to a lot of certain items like the Mora and then the fire kit, paracord, our first aid kit, a lot of items that I keep coming back to incorporate in my kit. They work for me and I recommend them to you guys. Some of the things we didn't talk about today, we've got cloth, bandana, camo one, extra large, and then a shamag for head wrap to keep warm. Got our poncho, wet weather item we can wear over top of ourselves if it's raining, to include over top of our rucksack as we're walking to keep everything dry. We've got our headlamp to see in the dark as well as to signal. We've got a strobe, a flare, an aerial flare that we can actually shoot out up into the air to alert search and rescue aircraft. Chem lights, our camo compact, and then our handy dandy signaling mirror we can use as part of our signaling kit. And then another thing we didn't cover, probably pretty important, especially if you're going to be out here eating MREs, is some biodegradable bottom wipe and some hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer to clean our hands, but then can be used to start a fire, and biodegradable wipes because we're out here, we want to take care of the environment, so go green. Wait, the Green Machine, all right. Alright guys, that does it for this video. The Green Machine, my favorite survival kit and fieldcraft loadout to go out into the wilderness. You saw a lot of good techniques and skills today, maybe some new things or some things you haven't thought of. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment in the comment section. I always appreciate your feedback. I want to thank you guys for everything you do for me and for this channel, for your likes, your views, your subscriptions, your comments, your feedback, and your shares. And I'll be back into the video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.